Today we look at France's most notorious inmates, those that were handed the longest sentences. The sentences in France are obviously different to the UK. In France, life imprisonment is the harshest punishment. It may last for the remainder of the criminal's life. When given a life sentence, they are required to serve a safety period of 18 to 22 years before they are eligible for parole. In cases deemed more serious, the safety period can be 30 years, or an order can be put in place that there is no prospect of parole at all. It's possible to be freed during the safety period, for serious signs of positive development and change, or for health reasons. But let's get into our first one. 1. Marcel Fornier took the lives of 12 people in France and Belgium alongside his wife Monique Olivier between 1987 and 2003. He was arrested in June 2003 for attempting to kidnap a teenage girl in Belgium. In 2004 he confessed to taking the lives of 9 people he had been informed on by his then wife Monique Olivier. He was convicted of 7 of these crimes on the 28th of May 2008 and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, while Olivier was given life with a min term of 28 years. In Feb 2018, Fornier confessed to taking the lives of 2 more women. On the 16th of November 2018, Fornier and Olivier were convicted. Fornier was given a second life sentence, and Olivier was sentenced to a further 20 years of imprisonment. In March 2020, Fornier confessed to taking the life of another woman who had disappeared in 2003. Fornier passed away on the 10th of May 2021 at the age of 79 after being admitted to hospital with respiratory problems. Monique Olivier remains in prison. 2. Guy Georges took the lives of 7 women between 1991 and 1997 in East Paris. He's also known as the Beast of Bastille. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 22 years. There was no centralised DNA database in France at the time, but he was identified in March 1998 after a judge ordered a manual search for a match in the DNA records of private clinics, which was a violation of typical regulations. He was then linked to all of the crimes. He confessed to all crimes. He stated, "I will inflict pain on myself. I will never leave prison. You can live in peace. Whatever happens, I won't do it again. Even if you don't accept it, I ask for forgiveness." He is 61 years old and remains in prison. 3. Dennis Waxon took the lives of 3 young girls between 1985 to 1999 in Lille. He was convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment of 29 years of preventative detention. On January 6, 1997, he attacked a 6-year-old girl named Wendy. The authorities brought in 5 men, including Waxon, to the police station. Upon being shown them, she immediately pointed to Waxon, who was not the suspicious man. This stunned the police. They were still unsure that was him, as he only had convictions for shoplifting. They sent a message to his mailbox to come in for an interrogation. On the 20th of January 1999, he attended, and he admitted to all of his crimes. He appealed his sentence in November 2003, but this was dismissed. He will be eligible for release in January 2028. He is 55 years old and remains in Louie prison. 4. Yvonne Keller took the lives of at least 23 people between 1989 and 2006 in France, Switzerland and Germany. He confessed to taking the lives of about 150 people. He worked as a landscape gardener, so he could easily locate the houses of his victims. He took the lives of elderly people so he could steal their valuables such as money, painting and jewellery, which he would later sell on to junk dealers. He would repeat the same scenario each time. He would then make their bed and bedroom so it looked perfect, and it would look like they passed away from natural causes. Between 1993 and 2003, he was on the police's radar. After 3 years of investigation, it led to his arrest. He quickly confessed, advancing the number of victims to 150. He was only indicted for 5. The police believe now that they could have indicted him for 8. Investigators are still finding similarities in other cases. On September 22nd, 2006, he took his own life while in the holding cell of the courthouse. His last words were, "I just wanted to be loved." 5. Ludovine Chambert was an unlicensed nurse and assistant who took the lives of people in a retirement home near Chambéry. She was prosecuted for poisoning 13 elderly people between September 2012 and November 2013, resulting of 10 victims losing their lives. On the 23rd of May 2017, she was sentenced to 27 years imprisonment. She is 40 years old and remains in prison. 6. Patrick Salome took the lives of 4 women between May and November 2008 in Marseille. A witness came forward and named Patrick Salome as the person they believed to have committed these crimes. He abducted and odd her on the 5th and 6th of October in his home. She saw a female in the bathtub. He informed her that this is the fate for women who don't obey me. The police also found that the telephone of one of the victims continued to transmit a signal. The police located the signal's source. It was a child who claimed to have been given a SIM card by Patrick Salome. He took his victims' SIM cards and later gave them away, a technique which made the police believe that the missing was still alive. They went to his apartment and searched. Although they didn't find the 3 victims, they found DNA that linked him to all 3 missing women, as well as DNA that linked him to another missing persons case of a student who disappeared 3 months before. In 2014, he was convicted of taking the lives of all 4 women. He was given life imprisonment with 22 years preventative detention. He is 66 years old and remains in prison. 7. Francis Hormy took the lives of 9 people between 1984 and 1992. He left home at 20 and went around France on public transport, by foot and on bike. He spent a lot of time in and out of rehabilitation centres and psychiatric institutions, which helped him get away with a lot of his crimes. He actually confessed to taking the lives of up to 3 people, but these were hidden by medical secrecy. In May 1997, he was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 22 years for taking the lives of 4 people. On the 16th of December 2004, he was sentenced to an additional 30 years in prison with no chance of parole for 20 years for taking the lives of 3 people. On the 17th of May 2017, he was sentenced to life imprisonment for taking the lives of 2 boys. He is suspected and accused of many cases, reportedly dozens in 87 departments in France. He is 64 years old and remains in prison. 8. Vincenzo Iotino took the lives of 3 people in the Longway commune between 1991 and 1992. He took the life of his final victim on the 25th of February 1992. She was found near his home. The Belgian police later arrested him at his house. He initially confessed to his crimes but then withdrew his confession and accused his father. He was extradited to France in 1993. He then accused his brother of the 3 crimes. On the 6th of March 1998, he was found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment with a min term of 18 years. It was possible he could be released in 2011, but he wasn't and remains in Nancy prison. He has attacked many supervisors in the prison. He is 53 years old and remains there. 9. Marcel Bar. He took the lives of 8 people in the region of Île-de-France in the 1970s. His MO was to commit his crimes in the night time or very early morning. Because of this, he was nicknamed by the media as the Shadow. On his days off, he would monitor his victims before taking their lives. He was known as a great husband and father, an all-around nice person, which enabled him to hide in plain sight from the police. After stalking and taking the lives of 7 women and 1 man, someone rang the police with a description of their stalker, which matched him. He was not arrested, but he was a prime suspect. The police investigated him and found a weapon in his basement that linked him to all the crimes. They also found a key to the cemetery where all the crimes took place. Authorities then pointed out that the days of the crimes corresponded with his days off. His trial began on the 25th of May 1981. He was charged with taking the life of 5 people. He denied all charges, despite the evidence, and acted coldly during his trial. He was sentenced to life imprisonment on the 10th of June 1981. He tried to appeal his sentence, but it was rejected in November 1983, and he was resentenced to life imprisonment. He remains incarcerated in the Central Prison of Saint Mar and is employed as the prison librarian. He is 82 years old. 10. Pierre Chanel. Pierre Chanel was a French soldier who is suspected of taking the lives of 8 to 17 people in the Marne region between 1980 and 1988. He was convicted of R and the kidnapping of a young man whom he picked up hitchhiking in 1988. He received a 10-year sentence for this and was released in 1995 on probation. Several soldiers vanished after hitchhiking while on leave. By 1990, at least 7 had disappeared. 5 soldiers between 1980 and 1982, and a civilian travelling in 1985, as well as another soldier in 1987. Adding to these disappearances, 2 people were also found, a soldier who disappeared in 1982 and an Irish tourist who was found on the 8th of August 1987. He never went to trial because the night before he took his own life on the 15th of October 2003 at the age of 56. 11. Claude Lhomme. He was convicted of taking the lives of 5 elderly women between August 1993 and January 1994 in Brest, France. He was arrested on January 12, 1994 and admitted his guilt to the police. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for 18 years. The 53-year-old remains in prison. 12. Jacques Hadou was convicted of taking the lives of 3 people in Picardy between 1992 and 2002. He had a very long criminal history. On the 30th of November 1992, he took the life of a teacher and then went on to use his credit card to withdraw money. Police found a fingerprint of his on a bottle of strawberry syrup, and he was suspected of this crime. He admitted to having gone to the teacher's house, but not on the date of the crime. In December 1993, he was taken into custody, but denied the accusations and declared that he was in the Paris region with his companion Chloe. She conveniently arrived at the police station and confirmed his alibi. When the police asked her for clarification, she refused to answer questions and left the police station. In his cell in custody, he attempted to take his own life, but was hospitalized. With the period of custody being over and the police not having enough evidence to convict him, the court abandoned the prosecution and closed the case. On the 20th of June 2002, he entered a home in Beauvais and forced the door open. He took the life of a 73-year-old woman. There was CCTV, but because of the poor quality, he could not be identified. Male DNA was discovered on various objects in the house, but it was not listed in the database. On the 15th of July 2002, he took the life of Sylvain Rome, a 30-year-old cameraman. He cleaned the apartment and stole a checkbook. The police requested he came into the station, but he never did. On the 2nd of October 2002, he broke into a station by breaking a window. The security guard noticed him and alerted police officers on patrol. After running his name through the wanted persons file, the police discovered he was wanted for crimes. He was then arrested, and his home was searched. Items linked him to the crimes. He then accused his roommate. In 2003, Chloe confessed to the investigating judge that she had lied, and she didn't even know him when the crime took place. In March 2007, he was sentenced to 30 years in prison, with a 20-year lock-in period. He tried to appeal this decision, but on the first day of his new trial, he gave it up. On the 7th of May 2008, he was sentenced to life imprisonment with a 22-year lock-up period, with 20 years of mandatory care and treatment for taking the lives of 3 people. He appealed his decision again, but it was dismissed. On the 23rd of October 2010, he passed away from a hemorrhage in Fresnes prison at the age of 46. 13. David Levra. He took the lives of 3 people in Hauts-de-France between the 8th of August 1999 and the 4th of September 2011. On the 8th of August 1999, he took the life of a homeless man during a robbery. He spent more than 3 years in prison before being released in 2002. Since his first crime, he had multiple stays in prison. He was released in 2008. He made many friends, including 2 young men. They angered him, and he took their lives. On the 12th of November 2013, his trial began. He was silent through most of the proceedings. He proclaimed he wished that his relatives and friends do not support him. 3 days later, he was sentenced to life imprisonment with 22 years detention, making him unable to apply for parole until December 2033. The 43-year-old remains in prison. 14. Emile Louie. He was a French bus driver and the prime suspect in the disappearance of 7 young women in Burgundy in the late 1970s. He confessed in 2000, but retracted his confession 1 month later. He was convicted of the 7 crimes in November 2004 and sentenced to life in prison. He passed away on the 20th of October 2013. It was reported that he passed away in a secure hospital at the age of 79. 15. Christine Malver was a former nurse who was arrested in 1998 on suspicion of having taken the lives of as many as 30 patients in a hospital in Paris. She confessed to some of them, but claimed she had done so at the request of her patients, who were terminally ill. The families of several of the victims denied that their relatives would have expressed this. Patients were 3 times more likely to pass away during her duty periods. She was released on bail, and she tried to take her own life. She went on trial on the 20th of January 2003. She admitted to taking the lives of 4 patients, but denied being responsible for the others. In a book she later wrote called My Confession, she stated, "I help people to end their suffering and depart in peace. I am not a criminal." She was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment for taking the lives of 6 patients. She was also permanently banned from working in the medical field. The 54-year-old was released in 2007. 16. Albert Millet, also known as the Boar of the Moors, took the lives of 3 people on 3 separate occasions between 1954 and 2007 in the province of Alpes-Côte d'Azur. All 3 crimes were a result of him being released early from prison. He never went on trial because he took his own life when he committed his final crime. 17. Reda Negru, also known as the Poisoner of Maxville, is Romanian and was arrested on the 14th of December 1990 for taking the life of an 82-year-old retired French soldier. As the investigation continued, it brought to light a second victim, her second husband. The investigation echoed within the Romanian community in Israel, which brought the attention of her first husband, who passed away under suspicious circumstances. Her trial began on the 21st of June 1999. During the trial, her behaviour played against her. She was described as wanting absolute control of the trial as well as being angry when contradicted. She also insulted the witnesses. She was handed 20 years imprisonment. She was released from prison on the 24th of January 2015. She spent most of her time in prison in solitary confinement because of her tendency to revolt against the prison authorities. 18. Marcel Pieri, known as the sadist of Vermont, is thought to have taken the lives of 11 people between 1981 and 1987 in Switzerland, France, the United States, Yugoslavia, and Italy. His last crime took place on the 24th of April 1987. The victim survived and named Marcel Pieri. He was arrested on the 1st of May 1987 while doing his military service. He went to court and was sentenced to life imprisonment. In 2002 and in 2009, he made several parole requests. They were all dismissed. The 64-year-old remains in prison. The police are still investigating other cases that could be linked to him. 19. Yoni Palir took the lives of 4 people from November 2011 to April 2012 in Essonne, France. His DNA was the only one present on the weapon used, and items of his clothes were found at the crime scene. He was arrested. He then was sent to a prison hospital as he had been having shoulder problems. Here he tried to escape. He was transferred back to prison, where he was attacked on June 19, 2014. His trial started on the 31st of March 2015. He was sentenced to life imprisonment with a 22-year lock-in period, the maximum penalty provided. The court also issued a security detention, allowing the release of a convicted person to be re-evaluated each year after his sentence had been served. The 45-year-old remains in prison. 20. Sid Rosela took the lives of 3 women in 1999. He was arrested in Portugal in early 2000, where he confessed. Several weeks later, he took his own life before he could be extradited to France, so never went on trial. 21. Nadar Sidarati took the lives of 3 people from May to July 1990. They were found in Rhine Canal near Nancy. He is also suspected in at least 2 disappearances dating back to 1982, for which he was never charged. On May 3, 2002, he was found guilty in all counts and sentenced to life imprisonment. He was arrogant during his trial and professed his innocence. He appealed the ruling, but this was dismissed. He has also said that he may have taken the lives of others between 1985 and 1995, and possibly even before 1982. The police are investigating cold cases and disappearances. He is 85 years old and remains in prison. 22. Alfredo Steny met his victims through classified ads in which he presented himself as a potential buyer of properties or used cars. On the 18th of Feb 2003, he was sentenced to life imprisonment with a 22-year security sentence for taking the lives of 4 people. The 67-year-old remains in prison. 23. Francois Vero was a police officer who took the lives of at least 3 people between 1986 and 1994. In September 2021, the police summoned him to provide a DNA sample as part of an investigation into these crimes. His wife reported him missing on the 27th of September. 2 days later, he took his own life. He left behind a note in which he confessed to his crimes. 24. Roland Bondon took the lives of 144 pets and 1 person between 1997 and 2001. He hired a man to take the life of a witness for the prosecution in a case against him. Shortly before he was to appear in court in Feb 2005, he took his own life. 25. Bertrand K is a known French songwriter, singer and musician. He was found guilty of taking the life of a French actress in a hotel room. He was released from prison in 2007 and has continued with his musical career. 26. Jean-Marie Demange was a French member of parliament. He was the mayor of Thionville for 13 years, serving in that capacity from the 25th of June 1995 to the 21st of March 2008. He had been distraught after losing the 2008 election to a socialist. He took the life of his mistress and then took his own life. 27. Patricia and Emmanuel Carier were husband and wife who in Picardy, France, deliberately gave their 5 children insulin, which resulted in taking the life of one of their daughters. In 2005, they were sentenced to 10 to 15 years in prison. The Cariers argued in court that they were driven to commit their crime out of desperation, caused by a €250,000 debt, which they incurred on numerous credit cards and assortment of consumer loans. They claimed that they had been caught up in a cycle of consumption, including on products for their children. Each of their children had a television, 2 had personal computers, and 3 had hi-fis and game consoles. Emmanuel eventually spent entire nights juggling loans in a downward spiral of revolving credit. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison on October 20th, 2005. She was also sentenced to 10 years. They were released on October 27th, 2008. 28. Christian Dornay took the life of his sister, mother, and wounded his father at their farm on July 12, 1989. He then drove through the village of Luxor and the adjacent area, taking the lives of 14 people. He injured 8 others before police managed to subdue him. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and could not be held accountable for his crime according to French law. He has been treated in a psychiatric hospital since 1991. He remains there and is 65 years old. 29. Patrick Henry was convicted of kidnapping and taking the life of an 8-year-old in January 1976. He was sentenced to life imprisonment and was paroled in 2001. However, he returned to prison 2 years later. He was subsequently denied parole multiple times before finally succeeding and being released from prison on medical grounds in September 2017. On the 3rd of December 2017, barely 3 months after his release from prison, he passed away from lung cancer in Lille at the age of 64. 30. Patrick Tizier was convicted of taking the lives of 3 people from 1971 to 1993 in the southern regions of France. A search of his car revealed several weapons. During interrogations, he admitted to the crimes. On the 30th of January 1998, he was found guilty in all counts and sentenced to life imprisonment with 30 years of preventative detention. His projected release date is this year. He is 71 years old. 31. S.C. Sagua, also known as Pang, took the life of René Hartevelt in Paris in 1981. He was arrested and deported to Japan, but was controversially released unconditionally after 2 years of pre-trial detention due to the applicable laws and the way his case was handled in France and Japan. He was never sent on trial. He became an author for the majority of his life and passed away at the age of 73 in Tokyo. Thanks for watching. Until next time.